Just when I thought things couldn't get stranger than 2020, 2021 happened. I started the year, as I always do, by choosing a word of the year. This is one of my most sacred practices and a ritual that I have done for the past 7 years that helps me figure out what lessons I'd like to learn throughout the year and what's my next step of growth. My word of the year for 2021 is Urah. Urah is a word that I first learned from author Tara Moore in her book, Playing Big. Hearing about the word and the concept of Urah changed my life many years ago when I read the book, but it was this year I decided I was going to make it my mission. Urah is a Hebrew word for fear, one of 2 words for fear that they have. The other is pahad. Pahad is the type of fear that seems logical, like being afraid of the dark, or spiders, or drowning, or heights. All of these types of fear make sense because they correspond with a real danger. Urah, on the other hand, is a different kind of fear. It's the feeling of stepping into a space bigger than you've inhabited before. In essence, it is stepping into your greatness. This year, I've decided that stepping into my greatness and creating space in my life was going to be what I focused on for 2021. I also really wanted to step into my greatness joyfully and easefully. However, this did not prove to be the case. I started 2021 with so much hope. However, it wasn't until about June that things started falling into place. Winter was a time of waiting, and spring was a time of disappointment. I was so disappointed that things weren't necessarily falling into place the way that I had imagined. Now I understand that the universe had other ideas for us, but at the time this was incredibly frustrating. As I've come to know and love the natural wonders of this beautiful slice of heaven that we live on in central Iowa, I noticed that maybe the natural world was giving me a rest this year in order to help me not feel so lost. Summer weather was a little off based on previous years. It was incredibly hot, but there was no heat lightning. The lightning bugs were late this year, and there were so many fewer of them. Lightning bugs are my favorite part of the summer, and since there weren't as many as normal, it was disheartening but also comforting. My beloved and I were very busy trying to make this next step of our dream a reality. And so maybe the fireflies and the lightning bugs stayed away so that I didn't feel like I was missing out on so much this summer. It also didn't rain quite as much as it normally does, but when it did, it gave me a lot to look at. The storm clouds seemed a little moodier, but then the sunsets that followed seemed a little showier, more vibrant, more dramatic. It was incredibly hot, and so I didn't really want to go outside this year, but that probably was to my advantage as well, because that meant I didn't feel so bad sitting at the computer working to make our dream a reality. In June, we put in an offer on our new plot of paradise, and our offer was accepted. But we spent the next month and a half working our tails off to make sure that we had the money to back up the dream. And we did. So even though the year started out with hope and it bled into disappointment, it morphed once again into something beautiful and joyful. And even though we may have to wait for the next step of the plan, I know that the first step is completed and waiting for us to make our move. Now that the calendar has flipped to September and fall is slowly starting to trickle in, I'm excited to continue working towards the next step of our dream, but also enjoy the fall. The first part of the year is always the hardest in terms of my word of the year, and this is a pattern that I've come to learn quite intimately. The first half of the year is usually where I feel lost and I worry that my word of the year is evading me and that I'm not learning anything. And then as I start to lean towards the last half of the year, I begin to see how everything is happening for me and not to me. I am stepping into my greatness, and I am giving myself the space that I need to bring forth the new iteration of who I am and the new version of our life. I can't wait to see what the next few months of Urah bring me.